G'day to all, it's now 6:30 and as you know I'm set up like a Swiss clock, so I'm ready for tonight's stream. I hope you had a great week. Mine was very good and I'll tell you more about it, of course, very shortly. I'll wait until some have started connecting, and then I'll speak more about my own week and also tonight's theme, which is how to organize your readings for your thesis, for your dissertation. So let's wait a bit until some connect. Hi, guest. Not sure who is now connected, but hi, nice to see you tonight. Yeah, it's so I'm happy to see that last week's stream was quite successful. I had more than 40 views, and it is my best score. 42 or 47, I can't remember, but it was above 40. Plus my number of followers has also slightly increased. I had 15 followers last week, and in a week I've had 7 more, which means half. So I gained 50% followers in a week on Twitch. So I'm really happy about this. Likewise, you may know or not that I'm also on Instagram and TikTok, and on TikTok, on both platforms, I am posting a short video every day on a specific issue relating to the dissertation. Hi, g'day, Fred Peter, nice to see you. And here too, I've gained quite a number of followers. I mean, it's a niche, so it will never reach thousands or millions. But on TikTok, where I've been for, let's say, 2 months, I've gained on average between 1 and 4 new followers each day. So now I am above 200 after a short period of time. So I'm very glad. So with people who tell me they like my short videos, and all this, is complimentary. Short tips on TikTok and Instagram, live interactions on Twitch, and other activities and replays on YouTube. On YouTube, it's mainly a shop window without many subscribers, but it does not matter, as I'm also uploading on YouTube some of my shorts for TikTok and Instagram. So each week I'm posting a selection, 2 or 3 of those 7 short videos I'm making each week. Otherwise, hi Rachel, nice to see you. And and I'm quite happy because those short videos have seem to have found their public, their audience on YouTube. I do not have many followers, so it's still a very low number, but the number of views is increasing for those short videos. So I'm glad with this, and I'm really convinced I must keep the pace and continue, and I'm really thankful to you for making it again week after week. So it's really warming, really nice to see. So my week was very good on this front, but not just on this front, on other fronts too, which are, as you know, dealing with my tools, my assessment tools with AI and stuff. So what's new this week? So this week I did a couple of things. One is something that might seem minimal, but for me it's a big step. I managed to really finalize or quasi-finalize my tool. So it is finalized. I know where I can improve, and it would take me an extra 2 or 3 hours of work. But let's say I've got my tool now ready to go. I managed to have the whole thing totally functional, and I'll show you shortly what I added. But not just what you'll see, I also worked on reinforcing my server. So there was a big work on the server so as to make it robust enough to receive up to 60 dissertations at a time, and I'll show you. I tested, so I did a test so on my server, so I hope I can retrieve it, and then I'll show you where where it is. Yeah, here. I'll share this with you very soon. And also, what else has happened this week? I had a couple of meetings with deans from schools, or recommended by a dean to people in charge of digitalization, quality and stuff. And there is a real interest. There's real interest in what I'm doing, what I'm offering. And one school has already scheduled a demonstration session, so demo session in 11 days' time, where I will show the possibilities, so what my tool can do, but not just, also how it can be used, etc. Something very interesting when I spoke with that person on Tuesday is that she raised, eventually, for the first time, someone raised the right questions, the very important questions, which are on, let's say, the governance of AI, and how is this compliant with the AI Act, because most people ignore it, so have no idea. What I've noticed is that many people still think of GDPR, so General Data Privacy Regulation, so European regulation, which is still in force, of course, but which was issued in 2017, so it's already 8 years old, and many people start really thinking about it, whilst the AI Act was passed about 6 months ago, and is probably much stronger than GDPR. And most people, most institutions do not know anything about it. And one very important thing is that critical data cannot be handled by AI without human supervision. So my tool, and I know that, so my tool cannot be used alone as a replacement of everything, as a replacement of people. It can serve a certain purpose, it can be used at some point, but there will always be someone checking the results. So it's not a big deal, not a big constraint. It's just that it needs governance. And when I spoke with that person, so she asked me how I comply with the AI Act, and I said, well, it's not me complying or not complying, it's how you use it. Because my tool is like Alfred Nobel's dynamite. So if you know the story, Alfred Nobel invented dynamite, and when he invented it, initially it was for construction purposes. I know it might sound counterintuitive, but he invented dynamite so tunnels for trains and for mining, tunnels could be dug easily. And then he was surprised to see that his invention was used for military purposes. And therefore, he felt so guilty that he launched this award, which we now know as the Nobel Prize, in most scientific areas, starting with peace. The Peace Nobel was his way of apologizing for having invented dynamite. And actually, my tool is something similar. I'm not meant to be at war with anybody. It's here to help, but of course, you can use it for better or for worse. And how I comply with AI Act, I would say, is by disclosing this, by having this disclaimer and explaining. So this person asked a very good question. And then she also asked me about the LLM, so the large language model I'm using. And I explained which one and why, and she was fine. She asked me about the business model and the pricing, and I explained, and so, it will be by the unit. And she said, okay, it's token based. I said, yes, exactly, token based. So the token, if you remember, I explained briefly someday, is the measurement unit in AI. It's with AI language models, a token is equivalent to a word in natural language, what we call natural language, the one you and I talk. It is indeed token-based. So she understood, and the conversation was of good quality. And on the 20th of November, I am having a demo with their schools for a test pool, and hopefully a school will be interested in partaking in testing the tool, and I know how I can present it for them. Something very interesting with that particular school is that they saw as the biggest interest, something I already told you, but they saw it, that all students are assessed in the same way. So there is no gap or no discrepancy between marks across students. All assessed based upon the same criterion, and no protest. Once the first test is completed, there is likely to be much more demand for your tool, which will encourage scaling. Absolutely. And everything I've been doing so far, and this is the second thing I wanted to mention for this week, more technical, is the technical scaling. But I'll get back to this very soon for Peter. So I had this indeed conversation. And then I also spoke with the new dean of a well-established business school in France. We spoke for 15 minutes, no need for more. And I explained to him what I was doing. And as we were talking, he said to me, I'm just doing my calculations, and I can tell that the dissertation is costing me €1 million each year. So your tool, of course, will be very helpful, as I'm here to reduce costs. So I didn't have to say much. So he saw that cost will be reduced. He also asked me a very interesting question, a question I did not expect as such, although I knew that someone would ask it someday. He asked me, but how can your tool be really different from simply using ChatGPT for assessing? Interesting, isn't it? And here, the answer was quite simple, saying when you're using ChatGPT yourself, it is telling you what you want to know. It is based on your discussion history, and tells you what you want to know, and is very complacent with you. My tool has no history, on purpose. And my tool is standardized, and when you use it as a chatbot, you cannot deal with the algorithm when you use it externally, as I'm doing, so integrating it into something else. You can set it up. You can set up its requirement level, so how demanding it is. You can also set up let's say the wording it will use. You can set up a number of things you cannot set up when you're using it for day-to-day usage. So he was intrigued. And then I spoke on Friday with another dean who also is interested and is happy to do a test at some point. So I'm getting there, and tomorrow I will meet with, so I'll have a phone call with one more dean and meet another one in person in Paris to discuss all this and to make my tool known. So I'm getting there. And as for scaling, this has always been my biggest concern, making sure that my tool and my server are robust enough for scaling. And if you remember, I mentioned that I changed server, that I migrated from one server to a strong one 2 weeks ago. And where I'm really happy is that since last week, I've been able to do tests on my current server with 60 demands. So I'll tell you a story. I wanted to test the tool with initially. Well, I was not very reasonable, not very sensible. I said I want to test 6,000 requests at a time. 6,000 requests at a time was too strong at that time when I tried, and the server there was a big bug and everything was all over the place, and I had to redo it in full. So to rebuild the server, I lost everything. So I had saved everything before testing. Then I tried with 600 at the time was problematic. Then I tried with 150, it was working fine. And then at that time I conducted a test, which you might see here. So hang on, with my emails, you can just see with emails that here there are 60 that I received at 4:20 on the 5th, which was on Wednesday. So on Wednesday I did those tests with 60 requests at the same time, and it works. If you see here, I received the report on the here it was on an internship report, and I received the evaluation, 60 evaluations. So it worked. But I realized it was not strong enough, and I had to set it up again, so to redo everything. And hi, Blogger School. So I had to redo everything. So I rebuilt the whole server. I remade everything. So I had saved everything before, and now. I didn't do that. I've not done the test yet, but now I've got everything in place to receive 500 requests at a time, so that when I'm doing the test, everything works. So that's where I'm at for now. Plus, like I said, I finished yesterday. So it's just to say how recent it is. I finished with my tool, and I'm showing you and explaining, of course, what is new now and what makes it ready for testing in real life conditions. So it is here. You might see. So just for the dissertation, there are six workflows. So the first one, if you remember, is the one I showed you several times. So this one is unchanged. So here we receive the student fills in a form. So here you fill in the form, you submit your dissertation. Then it is here administratively processed, which means that as you fill the form, this database is automatically filled with with the admin details that are needed. Then, after this has been filled, the evaluation happens here with and once the evaluation is done here, the database is updated with, if you see here, with the stage is completed, the mark and everything that needs to be checked, plus comments on the dissertation. So, and then you receive the email. So this is the whole thing. What I then did yesterday was this. Just for your information, doing this yesterday took me a couple of hours because there were a few errors, but it was pretty quick. Imagine that months ago it would have taken me 2 weeks. I would probably have spent 1 day on each step. So here, what happens? What happens is that once the last student has been assessed, and once you have this database finished, then the document is converted into an Excel spreadsheet, and then it is sent through my server to the school server, so securely sent to the school server. Then I receive a notification that it was well received, and from this, if everything works well, then I receive on Signal, so it's a messenger software similar to WhatsApp, I receive a notification that indeed it was received by the school. So I have 2 notifications, one here and one on my phone. And if it did not work, so if it was not received here, then I received a notification saying that there was an error. And after this, straight after this, the document is removed from my server. The Excel spreadsheet is removed from my server, and here I leave 96 hours, 4 days, until the database is deleted from my own server. So no data is stored more than 4 days. Why 4 days? Let's say I assume that everything happens on a Sunday. So here, the last submission arrives on a Sunday. So all this happens on a Sunday. And if there is any problem, if the school needs any feedback or any fixing, then they can contact me perhaps on the Monday or on the Tuesday. We can fix things. And then on the Thursday night, everything is done. So they do not need a week, and I think it's reassuring for everybody. So this is what I did yesterday, and which now makes my whole thing totally functional. I'm just now to simplify a few things. I will remove a few steps. I will tell you why. I will remove the ones that are highlighted, which are those ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those ones will be removed because I had them at the time. I was limited with my server and with the use of OpenAI. And now I'm quasi unlimited, so I no longer need them. And as I no longer need them, when I remove them, then my workflow will be quicker, as there will be fewer steps, and quicker and more reliable because there are fewer steps. But just removing requires a bit of work, just perhaps 2 or 3 hours. So everything then is working perfectly. So this is where I'm at for now. But I would also like to share something else with you, something I mentioned a while ago, I I have designed a Socratic chatbot aimed at helping students devise their topics and research questions. And this chatbot is supposedly doing the opposite of what ChatGPT does. ChatGPT gives answers. So you ask questions and ChatGPT gives answers. Here, my chatbot asks you questions. I would like to define my research topic. Hope. So it's reflecting what's with this specific area or field or interested in exploring for your research. I'm interested in capital markets, finance, and you will see the chatbot will ask you for more specifics. And this until you devise something and have a clear idea. So it's guiding you through questions. So this is my next tool. I'm quite happy with this. So it still needs fine-tuning, polishing, but in general, I'm quite happy with it. And it works in both languages, English and French. So I'm really happy about this. So I'm proud to show this. This is the week I have had so far. I joke a goth. So this is the week I've had, a good one. So how was yours? How has your week been? As I've spoken most of the time. So if there are no reactions, I continue with tonight's theme. Tonight, I would like to... Is the Socratic chatbot live? What do you mean, live? Is it in operation for now or not yet? So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the question exactly is. Is it functional? Is it available? Or when can people start accessing it? I've not advertised it just yet. I'm speaking about it around me. I'm speaking about it with deans for now, but I really hope it should be ready to go soon. Actually, it was nearly ready quite recently. Not quite recently. By the end of summer. Now I just have to make sure that all connections are working well, and that the discussion does not turn in circles. That at some point Socrates can say, okay, here is perhaps your topic, and I'm not quite there yet. Now the question can be ongoing, so infinitely ongoing. Once it starts being a wee bit more stable, then it will be easily accessible. But I really hope it will be soon. So when students are working on their topics, yeah. So yeah, I'm quite proud of myself with this, I must say. So for tonight, looking forward to it. Yeah. So I can share the link with you, of course. The link to the chatbot. You can test it, and I'm more than happy to have feedback on it. Yeah, for sure. So so for tonight, I wanted to address something on organizing readings for the dissertation. Last week I spoke of how to start with readings, and tonight it will be more on how you can organize yourself. So when you have already started, I assume you've already started. So this implies being clear with the different stages of your dissertation and of the process, and also with the different so the stages and role of different readings at those different stages. So when you start, I have other tools that I would like to share with you, some of which you already know, but it might be helpful for some people who do not know. So the readings. Last time I mentioned social media for a start. I mentioned academic social media as well. Now just want to be clear with the role of those readings and why are you doing those readings, and when, and what do you expect of them. So so there are, let's say, 3 stages where you do readings and where they are helpful, or I would say actually 3 plus 1. So the first stage is the one we all know. It's the most obvious one at the very beginning of the research project, which we discussed last week. So when you do some bibliographic search, you try to browse readings, to browse databases, and to read fast so as to identify those papers that can be pertinent for you, and so you can leave aside those others that are not. But this is for the very, very beginning. And like I said last week, and I remember at the beginning, you need to feed yourself with many papers so as to identify recurrent patterns, recurrent authors, recurrent approaches, recurrent questions that arise, and identify where you wish to fit. So what you want to do and where you wish to fit. Now, after you have started, you have to work on what is called a research proposal or dissertation proposal, and this is a document you submit after you've started, so a few months after you've started, and where you are supposed to have a fair overview of the whole thing. And here your readings, so you have done a number of readings, and your readings are not finished. So they're not finished. But first, your readings have helped you identify what is worth investigating today, given current debates. And this takes us back to the discussion we had on recency, on the need for selecting recent references. So current debates plus current knowledge, so what is known, what needs knowing, etc. So this helps you frame your own work. And when you write the proposal itself, you write a sort of it's an intention. So what are you considering studying, given what you've read so far? So far of my readings are blah blah blah. They're revealing this. So based on this, knowing that I'm not finished, and that's important, I'm intending to indeed address this research question and to answer it in such a way. So here you write, you develop, you expand the 4 questions. If you remember, it was weeks ago, the 4 questions around which the dissertation revolves. First question, what is my knowledge claim? So research question and potential answer thither. Second, what is the knowledge debate addressed? Third, by which means will I engage in this discussion? So by which theoretical, empirical, methodological means. And fourth question, what is my expected contribution? So this is where you write. The proposal develops each of those 4 questions, and here you can start really feeding 2 important things. One, which is question number 2, what is the knowledge debate? But also, if you remember something I said weeks ago on the topic is something that must be of triple interest. First, interest for you. Second, interest for society or organizations or practitioners. And third, interest for research. So, of course, when you get started, you're not clear at all with the interest for research. And this is totally normal. Nobody will complain. Now, after you've started, after you've done a number of readings, you are capable of highlighting the interest of your work for research. So at this particular stage, your readings are here to help you confirm this third interest of your dissertation. And later on, so your readings now are meant to highlight as much as possible what is known, what needs knowing on the topic. So what has been well documented, what has been left undocumented, or what has been remaining a blind spot of research, but also on what researchers agree and disagree in relation to this topic. So when you identify possible places for disagreement, it means there is a debate where you can engage, and then you can decide where you want to fit, with whom you would like to engage in a conversation, with whom you tend to agree and with whom you tend to disagree. And this is, for now, what we expect you to identify when you started. After your first round of readings, we expect you to be capable of identifying what is known, what needs knowing on the topic. It does not matter just yet that you're not clear with on which researchers agree or disagree. This will come later. This will come in the final document. So, and this is the third step, the third stage where you need to organize your readings. In the final document, so the thesis itself, your readings will be organized in a chapter. So the literature review chapter, we've spoken of this. I will speak about this in subsequent streams. But the literature review chapter, which is the chapter where you position your work, where you're positioning yourself vis-a-vis what has been done so far, and indeed you clarify, you make it explicit what is known, what needs knowing on the topic, of course, plus you discuss, like I said a few minutes ago, on what researchers agree, on what researchers disagree, where you want to fit, and with whom you want to engage in a conversation, and with whom you agree, etc. So that everything else will proceed from your positioning. Your methods, so your type of data, will proceed from this positioning, as you will need, if you want to talk to certain people, you will need to have data that makes sense to them, data appealing to them. And if you have data appealing to them, this means you are using a methodology for collecting and processing data that is acceptable by them. And this is something that you can only derive from your readings. You cannot decide up front, I want to do this method, without knowing whether this approach is understood, is acceptable by those researchers with whom you want to engage in a conversation. just clearly, if your readings show you that the literature that researchers if your readings show you that researchers only rely on quantitative data coming from databases and only rely on statistics, you can't pretend to rely on interviews. They will not accept interviews as valid data given their own positioning. Conversely, if the literature you browse and with which you want to engage in conversation relies on qualitative data, interviews, ethnography, you can't pretend to rely on quantitative, on databases, on surveys or whatsoever. It will not make any sense to them. It will not be acceptable by them. And here the literature, your readings are here to really help you identify and decide where to go and how to get there. So this is why this step, short after the beginning is critical. It's a real critical one. so you go the right direction. If you go into too many directions, you might be all over the place, and then there could be a problem. So how then to organize yourself? And this is probably a sort of difficult thing. I would say that there are several things. One is that, as we discussed last time, you should privilege academic papers without discarding books, but you should privilege academic papers. We've discussed this as to why, etc. So I will not get back to this, but some more on how to find them and how to systematically find academic papers. As the last time I showed you the Publish or Perish software, which I will reuse today if it wants to open, which is not sure. Yes, it does. Okay, it does open. So I'm sharing my screen again with you. Here we are, and Publish or Perish. So you can, a way of doing can consist of using the Publish or Perish software using keywords. And last time I briefly mentioned keywords. So we now assume that you have a clear or relatively clear, even if it's not definitive, but relatively clear topic and research question with some key concepts that will drive your work, that will drive your dissertation, your research. And the keywords here in this section, if we use Publish or Perish, will be your concepts. And let's take from my own PhD thesis, which was on accountability and ethnicity in a religious setting, the Salvation Army in France, Switzerland, the UK and Sweden. And the research question was on how do day-to-day accountability practices reveal their influence of ethnicity. This was my thesis. So here I had, let's say, as keywords, accountability, and so just here to see if there's anything addressing everything, and ethnicity, and religion, and practices. Let's see if there is anything. And here we find a couple, not just a couple, we find a number of references. So accountability and ethnicity and religion and practices. Those keywords are cumulative. And here there are, if we see, there are, so 200 papers. So it was capped at 200 papers. I could have asked for more, but 200 with one from 1998, cited more than 5,000 times in the Journal of Healthcare for the Poor. For the poor and so here I see that indeed there are things, but it would be so easy and intellectually laziness to some extent, or intellectually comfortable, it would be so easy just to take the first ones, saying, okay, cultural humility versus cultural competence, a critical distinction in defining the physician training outcomes in multicultural education, or patterns, clients, and policies, patterns of democratic accountability and political competition. But here I can see that those references are probably far from my discipline, far from my direct interest. Something coming from healthcare, Journal of Healthcare for the Poor, or let's say physicist journals are not for me. So, here from mastery to accountability, cultural humility as an alternative to cultural competence in social work education. It is probably a wee bit far from my concern, as my area of interest was management studies, so organization studies, with a focus on accounting and control. So I needed to focus my attention on journals that were addressing organization matters, organization science, management science, accounting science, if I can say so, and not too much on other areas. Of course, and that's something important. Of course, as I was dealing with ethnicity, it was important to ground everything I would say on ethnicity in anthropology. So I needed to focus also on anthropology journals addressing ethnicity. Plus religion, it was important to me to have sources that have some authority in theology. So religion, so something interesting. When you deal with religion, you've got a lot in theology, of course, but also in philosophy. So here I had to also look at references in philosophy dealing with an ontology of religion. And when it comes to practices, here important is to know that, and we discussed this 2 weeks ago, that practices does not mean what people do in real life or something. Practice is really a certain theoretical approach. So I had then to make sure I would have something coming from that type of literature. And here there are about 200 references addressing or combining the four, but probably not in a way, or first in disciplines that make sense to me, and second in a way that is really helpful to me. So a number of journals are irrelevant to me, like say Journal of Clinical Nursing, not really pertinent to me. Here just giving you a few, so something that could be interesting. Journal of Contemporary Ethnography, doing multiculturalism, interactionist analysis of the practices of a multicultural sorority. A bit far, a bit remote from my concern, although the keywords we've got here are in this paper, but still. Canadian family physician, not relevant. So this means that I need to have probably more keywords or synonyms or keywords that are a wee bit more restrictive at some point, so I can identify a more limited number of references. Plus, I could, if I add here accounting, we'll see if this restricts or to what extent it does restrict. And here it does restrict to 114 results. You would say it's not much of a difference as compared to 200. That's true, but at least we have narrowed the scope down a bit. And if we look at journals here on in the last but second column, we see a number of journals that are in our areas, so management or in accounting. So this means, yes, I can rely on a number of those journals, if not all of them. So Journal of Accounting and Public Policy sounds good. The impact of culture and governance on corporate social reporting, not really relevant to me here, but the journal could be. Child and adolescent development, socialization in family, ethnic and ecological perspectives, not really pertinent for me, but here, if we consider accounting and accountability in the 𝕤𝕒𝕒 community, so I don't know why it's still searching. Accounting and accountability in the 𝕤𝕒𝕒 community. Yes, very pertinent. What is the 𝕤𝕒𝕒 community? The 𝕤𝕒𝕒 community is a branch of the Church of Scotland. Like they're a community like the Benedictines, but in the Church of Scotland, in the very north of Scotland. And yes, something in accounting and accountability in the 𝕤𝕒𝕒 community could be pertinent in a journal which is Accounting, Auditing and Accountability Journal. So yeah, close to my own interest. And then I find that, then there is something called Accounting and Religion, a historical perspective in a journal called Accounting History. So this means there are two journals at least, Accounting, Auditing and Accountability Journal on one hand, Accounting History on the other, that could be pertinent to me. Then I can continue. Then here, Accounting for Public Space, not really pertinent in the first place, but we never know. Here I see how do you account for it, a critical exploration of career opportunities for and experiences of ethnic minorities. Yeah, you think, why not? So there's something in relation to ethnicity, so why not? And how's the journal called? Critical Perspectives on Accounting. Good to know. And you go onwards. And what is interesting is that when you have identified a couple of such references or such journals, when you read the bibliographies, so the literature reviews, and mainly when you have a look at the bibliographies, you see that those journals have, let's say, partner journals or friends, that belong to the same community. And then you know that when you read one journal, you will find other references that are pertinent for your own research in other associated journals. And here I just showed you three. So starting from Accounting, Auditing and Accountability Journal, then I saw Accounting History, then I saw Critical Perspectives on Accounting. When you browse those three journals, you find references that are pertinent for you, and you see that there are cross-references. And you also see that those three journals are calling on other journals recurrently, like Management, Accounting, Research, like Accounting, Organizations and Society, the Journal of Accounting and Organizational Change, but also Organization or also organization studies. So you see, those journals speak the same language, but those journals, when you browse them, when you browse even just the bibliographies, you see that they do not refer to other journals such as Academy of Management Journal, Academy of Management Review, Management Science, Administrative Science Quarterly, or the Accounting Review, or the American Economic Review, because you'll find this, and you might think, but how come? Because those journals are good ones. Yes, but not speaking the same language at all, not addressing the same issues, so not really relevant. And if you come across one reference in one of those other journals, it might not be relevant for you. So what I want to say here is that it's important not to be all over the place, not to multiply sources just because there are things that sound good. You need to sort things so as to have something at the end of the day which is consistent. And I'll show you something else, which is another tip. So once you have once you have browsed your journals, something very important is so and I'll get back to this afterwards. Something very important is that you need a reading grid when you have your journals, so in your papers. Here I'm just showing you the backstage of my own work, and here it is the Excel spreadsheet I developed, and it was ages ago. It's a paper that was published in 2019, but submitted for the first time 2009. So it took 10 years until it got published. So when I said last week that it can take up to 7 years, I was not lying to you. So I had a paper for which it was 10 years. So it is a paper which I'm just telling you a wee bit about the history of this paper and what it's about, so you then understand everything I'll show you with this Excel spreadsheet. This paper is, once published, is a paper on the role of critique. So what is critique? And I think the title was From Critical Accounting to an Account of Critique, the Role of Cultural Emancipators. And this paper initially was very different. Initially, I was concerned, or I was really intrigued by a paper I loved, written by Rachel Baskerville in 2003, entitled Hofstede Never Studied Culture. And I loved this paper. This paper has been my guide for years. And I was really convinced that Hofstede's cultural model is useless, if not rubbish, but useless. And here I had Rachel Baskerville's paper for a start, showing how and why it is useless, and articulating suggestions for his model. And then I thought, this is what I really need to start with my own thesis, with my work. And as things went, for my PhD, I wrote 2 literature review chapters, one which was on accounting and religion, and one which was on ethnicity in management research, and on culture and ethnicity. And for this chapter, I then decided to derive a paper, thinking there is something. And initially, I was really interested in Rachel's Baskerville critique. And I remember I presented the paper at a conference in Sydney, 2010, And there was someone who really applauded. Said, "Oh, that's a great paper, and I love it." And so then someone came to me and said to me, "You're very lucky because she usually does not like any papers." I said, "Okay, who's she?" "She's Rachel Baskerville." "Really? Can you introduce me, please?" And now we've become good friends. So, and she gave me great advice, and she was so surprised to see someone loving her paper, loving her research, and building up on it, that has been greatly helpful to me. And she really encouraged me to continue with my work, let's say, against Hofstede, so that together we edited a special issue of this journal, Accounting, Auditing and Accountability Journal, on ethnicity in accounting and management research. I can't remember the title of the very title of this special issue, but it was on ethnicity, and we had called on anthropologists, and one of our guest editors or co-editors was Jeff Sisson, a New Zealand great anthropologist. So everything started from there, and this paper then was progressively was aimed at showing the fate of critiques on Hofstede's model. And this is where I wanted to get to. So what I did is that I collected all papers I could find in the first place that were referring, accounting papers that were referring to critiques on Hofstede. So I identified in the first place 4 critiques, 4 critical papers, and they're here. I hope that it's not too small for you, but I can make it bigger. So there were 4 papers. Bimani, 1999, Harrison Mackinnon, 1999, McSweeney, 2002, Baskerville, 2003. And then I decided to see what fight those 4 papers had since publication. And this means I needed to check how many times each of them had been cited, explicitly cited, when dealing with culture. So I used the Publish or Perish software, did my research, found all those papers that were citing them. I read each paper, and then I checked if the citation was a proper citation, so used, or if it was just a footnote or just said in passing. So at the end of the day, only 28 papers were explicitly relying on at least one of the 4 critiques. This was the first thing. But then I wanted to identify the fight. So as you can see here in housing, it means in Publish or Perish. I had checked with exactly with for each paper, and interestingly, each paper, the total number of quotes, of citations, which you have here, divided by so the total number of papers, the number of times that each of them were cited. But more interestingly, I think was that I then needed to see the secondary impact those papers would have. This means how many times each paper, explicitly relying on those papers, was cited. And I saw for Baskerville, then combinations of Baskerville alone, combinations, Baskerville, McSweeney, etc. All possible combinations for the 4 critiques. And then I found 75 papers, and then that's where I wanted to get to. This was the purpose and the end of the story at the same time. So my data set was the initial 19 papers that were explicitly referring to one of the 4 critiques. And here, the way I read each paper, and this is something I encourage you to doing, was based on my research question. So, and if you remember, my research question was more or less what is the fight of critiquing Hofstede. And for this, I needed to check, well, first paper, the journal, the knowledge claim. So what is the research question asked, the knowledge debate addressed, and when it was explicit, so it was here in black. When it was implicit, it was in red. Then, which are the critiques whither the paper refers? Is it one or a combination? Then the cultural side, as it deals with culture. So what is the cultural side? The cultural unit. So as I was interested in ethnicity, so I mean the critiques were saying that nationality is not a good proxy for culture. So how is then culture approached? And here you see the number of papers do nationality, but some do ethnicity. So here we've got Evelyn and Hopper. Hopper was my supervisor, one of the founding fathers of ethnicity-based accounting research, or more generally management research. So here, okay. Then the methodology for collecting and processing data, the theoretical framework on culture. So if they do not rely on Hofstede, what do they use instead? And here I could see that some were using Gray, some others a combination of Hofstede and Gray. Some others tried to improve on Hofstede. Some others did differently. So here, Ephraim and Hopper, good enough, was an anthropologist from the 50s who developed the idea of distinction between phonemics and phonetics. Phonetics is how people do talk and how you explain their language. Phonemics is how I do talk and what I do when I talk. So it's how I perceived my own culture, and phonetics is how people perceive my sounds and my culture. So here, Haasre 2009 used Geertz, an anthropologist from the 70s, etc. Then interesting, I wanted to see how many citations each of those papers had received after publication, so as to see the authority those papers could have had, and then the conclusions and contribution to accounting knowledge if each of those papers had. And all this is consistent with everything I've been saying in weeks on the 4 questions. And lastly, some quotations I thought could be useful. So this was my initial data set, and you need, that's what I want to highlight, you really need to have a framework for reading. So you do not read in general and say, oh, this could be interesting, this could be interesting. No, you need to have a systematic approach to reading those papers. So that I then measured the secondary impact. So if you remember, I said all those papers that would refer to papers explicitly referring to one of the 4 critiques or a combination of 2 or more critiques. And then I could identify. So more interesting, I think, is that I could then, based on the other spreadsheets, I could draw some recurrent patterns. So what is common to those papers? How can those papers then be split into groups? And what are the groups of papers that emerge? And here is that I identified, and but this is in a different spreadsheet, but a different Excel table. But what I found was that actually there were three types of authors. So in here it's farther, if you continue, if you go farther, how many times papers citing the critique are cited when they deal with culture and so with ethnicity in accounting and management research. So at the end of the day, I could, but it's on a different spreadsheet, and I apologize for this, I could identify three types of fights for the critique with people who explicitly cite the authors, so they need a sort of an argument of authority, saying, there has been a critique, blah, 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 and I rely on this. Then we had a second group of people who were more cultural builders, so enriching the critique, and we found some cultural emancipators, so people who after years no longer needed to refer to the critique. So the critique had not extinguished, but had played its role. It was culturally absorbed, so people no longer needed to refer to it. So this was more or less what I showed with this paper. But what I wanted to show you here was the need, the imperative to have a tool, so at least an Excel spreadsheet enabling you to, but I need to find the other one, enabling you to sort your papers so you read them in a systematic manner. I really apologize. I thought I had opened the other one, but I'd like to open it so I can show you more. Because what is very interesting is that with those tables you do, at the end of the day, you can do pivot tables where you can group papers based on the column, on the particular column. And this is what I need to find here. Just bear with. 2014 database, is it this one? Should be, I think it should be this one. Yes, I've got it. Here is the the final document, and I'm sharing my screen again. Here, yes, the final. Voila, here we are. So I started with all those papers, and I coded. So I showed you how I coded with the other spreadsheet. Then I simplified the coding. So here, I can't remember everything, but time to critique, was it after, while the paper was published, or was it after a while? Then Hofstede, are they critiquing, are they eliciting, or are they can't remember? No, that was it. Then is there any so a note or whatsoever? So okay, but interesting. Here are the 48 formula. So you'll see I've got social reformers, emancipators, pivot tables, as you can see. But formula, no, it's not this. Let's go to the pivot tables are not here. My gosh, sorry, I really thought I had them here. Okay, I don't know how come, but it seems that, okay, so I can't find the right document. But when you have your tables done, like I showed you, with certain codes like this, you can do pivot tables where you can sort your papers together and see those groups, see those streams that emerge based on one particular criterion. I think it's very powerful. And I did this years ago with Excel. Now there are another two tools. I'm discovering them, so I will not be able to really tell you much about them, but I need to mention them. There are two other tools that are very powerful nowadays that are AI-driven, AI-based. And those two tools are Airtable. The one I'm using for now for my dissertation assessment tool. But what is very interesting is that here you can feed your database and set a number of criteria, enabling so that then there's an AI that automates your pivot tables, automates the grouping of your lines, your references around what you find in a column. Here it could be this one, status, pending, completed, and then I can have a pivot table automated saying, okay, tell me which papers, papers are still pending, we still need to be here assessed, and which ones are done, or which papers, or what is the best split. So the best way of splitting papers, is it around theory, around methods, around anything else? And then it tells you and groups the papers and gives you a rate of so a reliability rate or something of this particular grouping. So I think it's very powerful. So Airtable. The other one is slightly similar, but I'm less familiar with it, although you see I'm sort of using it. I'm not as familiar, but it does something similar. What I understood with this one is that it's much more visual. So you can have things more visual. Like if I take here, no, I'm not on the right account. Sorry, do I have somewhere? Purple squirrel. Sorry. Oh gosh. Yeah, purple squirrel. It's in French, but interesting here. You have in a much more visual way. you see you can see a number of statuses or things for various settings you set for your database. So you can then have an AI that sorts the papers for you and that tells you what grouping works best. How far does it help in finding patterns? Now, it really helps. It is very helpful because it's as compared to Excel. Let's say Excel is very powerful. It's great at a number of things, but let's say the biggest weakness or limitation with Excel is that you have to know in advance what you want to find. You need to know, whilst here with AI or Notion, as they are powered with AI, they can understand patterns, recurrent patterns, and show you the patterns they have identified. Of course, it does not mean they are totally right, but at least it is a hint, and it deserves investigation at your end. What I understood is that it works pretty well. And I can understand that you're surprised to see that pivot tables can be used in qualitative research for literature reviews. Indeed, and for me it was very powerful because I did not want to fall into a trap consisting of taking conclusions or different conclusions as what differentiates papers. What differentiates papers is not necessarily conclusions. Conclusions is the end of the story, but my interest was to understand whether or how the way research is conducted influences conclusions. And then I needed to have in my Excel spreadsheet keywords that would be reusable from one paper to another, so that when I sorted by theory, then I could see the recurrent theoretical frameworks, and if it was relevant to split papers according to theory or cultural unit or anything else. But I had to do it manually and then find. And I could find that indeed what made a big difference was with the theory used and with the cultural unit for sure, but also of course the research question, the knowledge claim was a starting point of what distinguishes between papers. But I had to do all this manually, and here with those two software with which I'm not totally familiar yet, this can be automated, and I think it can be a good way of saving time. It does not mean you should not read papers. No, it helps you read them. It really helps. So I understand it may seem novel to do pivot tables, but the idea is really to identify the main streams of thought and what differentiates them from each other. And what differentiates them is not necessarily conclusions. If you just focus on conclusions, I am afraid you might be superficial. And I did not want to be superficial. That's really it. Then I wanted to show you something else, which this time you may know already, which are which is actually one very powerful software, which is a bibliography manager, and I will show you two for one simple reason, a bad reason. Just let me share my screen again. Here I am. Yeah, so the bad reason for showing you two tools and not one is that this one, EndNote, which I really love, is working perfectly with Microsoft Word. And since I quit higher education, I've no longer been using Microsoft Word. I've been using LibreOffice, which is open source. So as much as I can, I prefer using open source software. And EndNote is not compatible with open source. It is itself a licensed software. The other one I'm using now is 𝕤𝕤𝕤, which I like a bit less because I'm less used to it, actually. I've been using EndNote for nearly 20 years and 𝕤𝕤𝕤 much more recently. But what is interesting here with EndNote, and I've not been able to find the same with 𝕤𝕤𝕤, is that you can decide to browse library catalogs with online search. And here you can choose the library you want. So I usually take Library of Congress because it is probably the library that has the highest number of references. Nearly everything published in the world is referenced at the Library of Congress. I don't know how long for, but still the case now. And here, if I say I want to see what, I would not say live in, yeah, let's say Levinas. I'll take by author. I could take by theme, but if I take by theme, there will be too much. And here it says there are 191 references. Then the catalog is browsed, and I see, different in different languages. So in Italian, in English, and French, and in Spanish. Okay, there's an error. It does not matter. What I wanted to show you here was that take difficult freedom. This one. What is interesting is that when you double click it, you've got the full reference, so that you can save it. So you can add the reference to your library, and once you have it, so it looks like this. I'm showing you with Zotero now. And here should be somewhere Emmanuel Levinas. Whatever, but whatever. Let's say okay. It's okay. So my database is not quite there yet, but does not matter. Let's take this one. So, and interestingly, you have the full reference, the full notes for the reference, and then when you take this one, and then when you write your document like literature review, you find here, and it will be you can decide to add it, and that's not what I wanted, but I want to add this. Oh gosh, lost it here. Yeah, I want to add from my Zotero library my Levinas reference. And here it's in Dutch, but it does not matter. And it should be here. So it shows directly here. And then I can add the bibliography. Just afterwards. Then I can decide to have the bibliography made. And here I've got the reference in the right format, so the format I chose, and it will be in alphabetical order. So what is interesting, I think, with this bibliography manager is that it helps you do 3 things, and in fact 4. The first thing is that it helps you browse library catalogs and get the full proper reference without any problem. And you can browse your own university catalogs. If they're referenced in the list, it's not a problem at all. If they're not referenced, there is a little trick, something to do to have access to it, but you can ask your librarians for not the code, but for the path, and then you can browse, and that's very, very interesting. The catalog also for academic papers, and have everything centralized in one place, and have all your full notices for your database, so you do not have to type anything, and you avoid any risk of making of having typos or spelling mistakes or whatsoever. And I think that's just fantastic, very, very helpful. I cannot live without such software nowadays. And that's what I wanted to show you for tonight. How to approach reading, so the role, stages of readings, how to approach them and organize them, and how you can use tools, so software and AI-powered tools to help, because I still see many people, so colleagues, but also younger researchers doing a lot of things manually, where you can save time by using software, by automating, knowing that using AI does not mean you are outsourcing your work to AI, you are using it to help you. It's a tool helping you, it's a technology helping you, it's not replacing you. So this is it for today, for what I wanted to share with you. I do not know if you have any remarks, any comments or whatsoever. I hope that I answered your questions, Fred Peter. If not, so please let me know, and I'm more than happy to oblige. If you consider I did, then you make my day, and I then wish you a lovely, you're welcome. My pleasure. I wish you a lovely evening, and I hope to see you next week. So I'm not decided exactly just yet as to what I will show you next week, but but I will continue. And thank you very much for recurrently coming. Please feel free to spread the word around you if you know of anybody to whom you think it could be beneficial. I hope the format is pleasant, where it's supposed to be casual, relaxed, interactive, and thank you very much, Fred Peter, for engaging. Really appreciate it. So thank you again. I wish you a lovely evening, and I hope to see you next week. Bye to all.